Despite half the roster being out for the Panthers still find a way to beat the Ottawa Senators and win the season series 3-1-0 against the Sens. And the Florida Panthers' magic number to clinch the President's Trophy is now at 1. On this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, Nick Fairbanks from PantherParkway.com will be joining me to chat about this 4-0 win over the Ottawa Senators and one step closer to the President's Trophy for these Florida Panthers, all on today's episode of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to this Friday, April 29th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from PantherParkway.com. You can follow me on Twitter at MonoMan12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers. And don't forget to also follow the national show Locked On NHL and the Crosscheck NHL show with Andrew Berkshire and Mary Clark. Will be covering all the regular season activities around the National Hockey League. So the Florida Panthers, like I said at the top, a lot of the roster was out for this one, especially those of Alexander Barkov, Jonathan Huberdeau, with him being 7 points behind in the race for the Art Ross. Sergei Bobrovsky didn't even dress. Jonas Johansson was the backup for the Florida Panthers, just to name a few for the Florida Panthers. Claude Giroux is another one that didn't play. Radko Gudas, Anton Lundell. So lots of players out. The Florida Panthers, of course, call up Matt Kierstead, Alexei Heponiemi, and Cole Schwitt in this one, and they still found a way to get a win. And just as we start recording this live edition of Locked On Panthers, we were going to react live to the score out in Colorado, where the Nashville Predators are now tied with the Colorado Avalanche 4-4 in the third period. And let me bring in my guests so we could discuss this win, along with reacting live to Preds Avalanche, is my colleague from PantherParkway.com, another Friday edition of the show. Nick Fairbanks is back. Nick, how are you doing tonight?
Doing very well. Took it real easy like the Florida Panthers did tonight, and just enjoying it. Enjoying the ride right now. I think I'm actually on board with getting the President's Trophy, and hopefully the Predators within the next 10, 15 minutes can take care of that for us.
It's weird because going into a game like tonight, I had a few school of thoughts, which the first one was the Ottawa Senators won 5 straight going into this one. The Panthers resting their players, which was the right thing to do, win or loss. And just saying, man, this team could easily find themselves at the end of the night tied in points with Colorado, and a regulation loss and a win of any kind for Colorado, the Florida Panthers would no longer be in control of their own destiny. But then I had to remind myself once again that the Florida Panthers are going for something bigger than just that. They're going for health, and it'll only matter if they meet in the Stanley Cup Finals. So a few school of thoughts that I was not gonna lie, I was very conflicted coming into this, but just another character win as well. And you let it loose tonight. I let it loose tonight as well a little bit. It was just casually just watching as well, just a little bit more relaxed than a typical game as well. And it was a very relaxing night as well because of the NFL draft and the Miami Dolphins not having any picks as well. So that was a very at ease night for South Florida sports fans. What were your school thoughts going into this one?
Number one, I think you tweeted it out was, just make sure that everybody's healthy and that they're not putting them in a position to either get hurt or to get a suspension. Because let's face it, all it takes is one hit or one little minor infraction, and they could say something wrong to the referee, and hey, you're going to get a game ban for saying what you just said to them. So just coming out with all parts, intact and ready to go, not only for maybe tomorrow. I don't know how many more players they might sit tomorrow, but just going into next week, just fully locked in, healthy, and ready to go. The other school of thought I had was, listen, it's the Ottawa Senators. Not too worried. Yeah, they won 5 straight, but, even our AHL line, we call it 3 people, can come in and take care of business. And, no issues with Spencer Knight getting probably his last start of the season, got a shutout. So I think it really bodes well and actually really shows, again, the depth of this team, going into the playoffs.
And Bruno even talked about it after the game, talking about how this has been the depth that the Florida Panthers have had all year and that they've been showcasing, and it's just continuing to come into fruition this season. So we got a little bit of a comment right here. Gator Rock Tim talking about the score, and Brad has the trophy. Don't celebrate too much just yet, Brad. Because nothing is set in stone yet for the Florida Panthers in their quest for the President's Trophy. But now only takes 1 point for the Panthers to get the President's Trophy. It really comes down to, like, my mindset going into a game like tomorrow is at least have a 1-goal lead within the last 5 minutes in case something goes wrong. Of course, something can go right tonight with the score currently being 4-4 in Colorado, but just, likely going to be the same lineup tomorrow with a few little more tweaks. But if they were to beat the Ottawa Senators after the way they lost to them back in December, of course, for some context, COVID and all, and then coming back from 3-0 just last month, I feel very good going into tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, we're playing a Montreal Canadiens team that is going to finish last, and I think I read somewhere today that they are the first team in history to go from a Stanley Cup final to dead last. No American team could say that, only a Canadian team, and it happens to be Montreal, one of the more storied franchises. So, I'm going to dunk on them right there. But the big thing that they need to get out of tomorrow again is health and make sure that they don't do anything stupid. My big thing is maybe you rest Sam Reinhart, maybe Bennett, and maybe Verhaeghe. I think those are the 3 players that you really need to not only get off to a good start in the first round, but you're going to need them for a long postseason run. I think somebody on Twitter pointed this out, and I absolutely agree 100%. And I think his name was Bill. He said that during the first round that the top players are going to be covered. Like, so you have your Barkovs, your Hubertos, all that. They're going to be covered, and they're not probably going to produce a lot. And if they do, that's awesome. That probably is a great thing for the Panthers. But it's going to be your Verhaeghes. It's going to be your Reinhardt. It's going to be your Bennett. It's going to be your Duclairs. The depth that we talk about and that we've talked about all season are the ones that are going to have to come through and really, put the team over the top, which they've shown it all season. But what's going to happen when the top line can't produce, or let's say they have a couple of off shifts or somebody gets hurt? Are they going to be able to pick up the slack when it means the most?
And that's what Bill Zito has been able to do since he's come in. That was the struggle for all these years of the Panthers not finding those complementary pieces that mesh with the core.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen many off nights from, not many, but a few off nights from Barkov and Huberto, and they still find ways to win. And that's a credit to the front office. That's a credit to the coaching staff. And those are the guys who will be needed during this playoff run. You spoke about not getting a suspension. You spoke about not getting hurt. Let's continue that conversation on the end of the break, because there's a specific player that I do want to talk about in relation to that. I think I think where I'm going there. But
It's one or two. Yeah.
let's talk about that in the next segment. But first, we're going to tell you all about Built Bar. I'm going to full screen myself. I have a cherry barcia flavor Built Bar right in my possession. So the summer is coming, and with summer, you're going to have some foods on the go. Built Bars are the perfect snack to take with you on family vacations. Throw them in your bag, in your kid's backpack. Make sure that everyone has a bar so you are fueled for all your summer adventures. The best part about Built Bars, they're healthy and delicious. No more sacrificing delicious food for health. With Built Bar, you can have both. It's easy. All you have to do is go to built.com and order now. And Nick, have you tried the puffs? Have you tried Built Bar by any chance?
No, I would love to try them though. They sound tasty.
Yeah, I mean, Jacob's tried them. I mean, you step up your game, man. Like, get some Built Bars in you. Like, sometimes it could be a meal replacement for your breakfast. I mean, it's think about this. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. I mean, that's something you can't beat. So, for everyone listening, go to built.com and use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your order. So once again, that's built.com, 15% off your order, and use code LOCK15 at built.com. Second segment here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of today. And don't forget to also listen to the Locked On Now podcast. It's nightly recaps of every NHL game from each of the local experts across the National Hockey League. So I love that you brought up a few points based on suspensions, based on injuries. Of course, the player that we both think of and many people around this fan base think of, the first one is Sam Bennett. Of course, there could be a little bit of not so good decisions with Benny at times. But man, Sam Bennett must have heard Jacob and I the other night kind of criticizing him based on how he's played as of late, and just creating an opportunity of just Sam Reinhart creating an opportunity for Sam Bennett right in front of the net. Excuse me, the other way around. Bennett creating the opportunity for Sam Reinhart, creating the steal and winning the board battle right behind the net, and then setting up Sam Reinhart for the first goal of the game. And also, credit to Lucas Carlson as well, creating that steal as the Ottawa Senators were trying to clear the zone. I mean, he didn't get an assist on the goal, but still they were able to work it around. And then Sam Bennett gets the rebound off an Anthony Duclair shot. So, I mean, credit to Sam Bennett in this one. And even though he hasn't had a good stretch, tonight is a big confidence boost for someone like Sam Bennett, who has been in a little bit of a tough stretch.
Yeah, and there's some people out there that are wondering, like, well, how did this guy score 28 goals? Well, all that home cooking we did in the first part of the season where, we were winning, 12, 13, 14, 15 games at home in a row. Well, Benny does his damage at home. So the fact that the Florida Panthers are, trying to get home ice advantage throughout all the playoffs and hoping it's a huge playoff run, you would hope that he's going to start getting hot at the right time and scoring big goals. The only concern that, Panther fans have is, when is he going to take a bad penalty? Because it seems like every single game he's taking one. And the game that I was at earlier this week in Boston, I saw it as clear as day. He definitely took a hooking on the hands of one of the Boston players, and he tried arguing it. But if I can see it from mid-level deck where he got the stick on, it wasn't necessary. I also liken him over to Trocheck. I think he means well, and I think he's really trying to drive the play, but I don't think that's his best asset. I think his best asset is to use his speed to get behind the defense and actually chase down pucks and actually win those board battles. But I feel like he likes to carry the puck a lot, and unfortunately what happens is, like Trocheck, like many of us saw, he would turn over the puck a lot, or he would create chances going the other way for the other team. So just hoping that he can find a groove, maybe into tomorrow and going into the playoffs where he'll be a big asset instead of possibly a liability.
I'm looking up his home road splits right now with Sam Bennett.
It's not pretty.
Yeah. 21 of those 28 goals for Sam Bennett. 21 of those are at home, and
Yep.
seven of them are on the road. So big difference between Sam Bennett's production at FLA Live Arena versus at in other arenas. So good point that you brought up there for Sam Bennett, and also credit to Carter Verhaeghe as well. Two goals in this one. Eetu Luostarinen, my God, creating a steal that in the neutral zone just as it was outside the blue line, and then creating that opportunity for Carter Verhaeghe, and that's Barkov's line mate right there too. So the fact that this season his cap hit is $1 million right before his big extension hits next season. This is another great game that Carter Verhaeghe, someone like him, can definitely get going as well. And I'm kind of looking up the point production for Carter Verhaeghe, and it's been a little bit for Carter. I mean, he went pointless in the last 5 games right before tonight. So good to keep his confidence going as well.
Carter he was unfortunately let go by Tampa Bay because they just couldn't keep him. They couldn't afford him. So, somebody's, unfortunate trash is another man's gold. So, I'm not saying Carter's trash at all, but definitely has worked out perfectly for the Florida Panthers. I think he is one of the irreplaceable players on this team right now, outside of, Barkov and Huberdeau. And, I'm going to throw Lundell in there because I have to. But he can play on any line and he can produce something. It's whether with his shot or how he plays, along the boards. He's one of the forwards that I noticed in his first season that was not afraid to get in the dirty areas and try to win pucks and everything. And I think that was another thing that Florida tried to shore up over the last couple seasons of, guys actually going in and taking care of business. But, he can go pointless, but he's still setting up a lot of opportunities for other players, and he's still noticeable on the ice. He'll always have a two-way game to actually fall back on. So to say that, he has a cold spell, it's fine. You can definitely see that there were times where, he was snake bitten. Like, he was on the doorstep a couple of times earlier in the year where he hadn't scored in like 8 games. And all of a sudden, every single game after, those 8, it seemed like for 5 or 6 games straight, he was scoring a goal or 2 or, having a beautiful play set up. So Carter definitely is a part of the what do we call it here?
The solution.
The solution, the nucleus, whatever you want to call it, of this team. And I'm so happy that he's locked up past this season and got the raise that he most deservedly got.
Yeah, I want to talk about that fourth line: Joe Thornton, Cole Schwitt, and Alexei Heponiemi, the veteran. The broadcast was talking about their combined age is just 1 year older than Joe Thornton. And just the talk of Joe Thornton about how people listen when he talks about how much of a good presence he is in the locker room. Just, I know Cole Schwitt and Alexei Heponiemi are not going to be part of the playoffs for the Panthers. They're going to be sent back to Charlotte for the Calder Cup playoffs. But still, even if it's a little bit of a short time that they get to spend with Joe Thornton, that's time well spent. And it kind of, even though Jaromir Jagr was with the Panthers a lot longer than Joe Thornton, that's just another example of, when a youngin comes on to a team and they have someone with that kind of experience, it's just like listen more than you talk and take in what someone like Joe Thornton is saying. So I'm happy that Heppo and Schwitt got an opportunity to be on that same line as Joe Thornton.
And he's the ultimate professional. I mean, you see how he interacted not only with his teammates and his, the team and the media when he was over in San Jose with Brett Burns doing the whole beard thing and everything. And he's a really laid back, chill dude. And I think that's another thing that Bill Zito probably wanted to bring in. It was, a leader who could be, that loose and also turn it on when the game starts and also be serious when needed to. This is my opinion, but I feel like Jaromir Jagr was brought in for a reason to get Huberdeau and Barkov going. kind of give them a template to kind of go after. Whereas I think Joe Thornton was brought in for the entire team to kind of get mentoring, to not be so hard on themselves, and also just to show them that there's a different way that you guys can play and come together as a team instead of just playing individually. So I think he's been a huge addition to this team, not only coming together, but have you heard him complain about playing time at all this season?
Nope.
I could honestly think of some stars probably in the past that if they were to play in Florida and only getting 4 or 5 minutes and maybe playing maybe once every 2 weeks, would probably say, "Hey, I want out," or "I need to play more, trade me." Um, he hasn't said one thing, and I think he has a good spot here. And it'll be interesting to see how Bruno wants to use him in the playoffs. I wonder if it's going to be power play, if it's going to be to win a face-off when the team needs it, if Barkov or Giroux can't take it. You know, what is his role going to be? And, is it going to be a big one that's going to pay off in the end?
I'm really not sure. That's a big wild card question. And I think he's not going to start the series. I think he's going to be in the latter part of the series, especially if desperate times come for the Panthers, which we're definitely not hoping that's the case for the Cats. So it's funny because the defense also looked a little different too. Matt Kierstead was back, took a really strange penalty out of position. I think the person he tripped was Brady Tkachuk. As he was breaking as he was crashing the net, just out of position. That one, I mean, last time Matt Kierstead was up in the NHL level, at least top a good amount of minutes. I mean, he scored a goal in that game against the LA Kings. That was really the only good part about that night. But Matt Kierstead was back. He was Petteri Lindbaum was in the lineup. Robert Haig. So a lot of different look for the defensive pairings as well. So it's going to be a weird couple of days for the Panthers, and of course health is numero uno. So that's really what it comes down to. So Nick, we have some more playoff picture related things to talk about. Before we get to the break, Colorado and Nashville are still tied at 4. But there's still plenty of other things to talk about around the NHL, as in relation to how the first round is eventually going to look. But first, we're going to tell you all about BetOnline. And BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your sports betting, stats, and info. Find all the best sports development, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs to esports and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Third and final segment here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. I'm Armando Velez. I got Nick Fairbanks here from PantherParkway.com on this Fairbanks Friday edition of the show. So, Nick, as expected, Alexander Ovechkin did not dress for the Washington Capitals tonight. I spoke a little bit about his durability over the years, how it's been freaking great for Ovi, how he's been able to, you look at just Hockey Reference, see high 70s, low 80s in the games he's played most of his season, so he doesn't miss time. The New York Islanders win again against the Washington Capitals. That was their game in hand for Washington. Now they're a point back of Pittsburgh. So now Pittsburgh, who they face, I'm going to look it up real quick. They face Columbus tomorrow at home, and Washington, they face the New York Rangers on the road tomorrow as well. Looks like I'm going to assume it's Georgiev that's going to start for the New York Rangers, and a lot of the players are going to rest, but I also believe Washington's going to rest too. So that's going to be a hard game to predict. Don't know what Columbus is going to look like neither. We don't even know what Florida is going to look like neither as well. So if Pittsburgh gets at least 8 point, it'll be Washington, Florida, no matter what Washington does in Madison Square Garden. Here's another interesting one, Nick. The Minnesota Wild are 2 points ahead of the St. Louis Blues, but the Blues own the tiebreaker for the first round matchup. If this result holds, if not holds because it's tied for the Avs and Predators, if the Colorado Avalanche end up winning against the Nashville Predators, it'd be Avs Wild tomorrow. Do you think we'll see the Minnesota Wild trying to go for home ice advantage against the St. Louis Blues? Trying to get that point because St. Louis plays Vegas. Vegas is a disaster. Their season's over already. So it's kind of really hard to predict like what kind of Minnesota Wild team we would see tomorrow if this result holds between Colorado and Nashville. Excuse me, if the Colorado Avalanche find a way to win.
So I think it's in the best interest of any team to do what's in your best interest. So if Minnesota views it as they're a very good home team, which they look like they are, I would do everything in my power to make sure that I do get home ice advantage outside of, Colorado and everything. I think the Blues are a good matchup for them. I think it would be actually a good 6 or 7 game series, but would you want to have the home ice advantage during that type of series? I would. It doesn't always work out to the point where the home team wins the series, but you always want to give yourself that advantage. And in regards to the Eastern playoff race and everything, it's kind of weird that Capitals keep losing. And I'm not going to say it's because Ovechkin's been out or anything like that. I mean, he's obviously their anchor and everything, but you have to kind of wonder if they're losing on purpose. Maybe they want to play Florida.
That's valid.
Because who knows? I mean, you and I are, both, fans of our goaltending situation to a point. But when it comes to Washington, we don't know what kind of goaltending they're going to get. We don't know if they're going to be good, if they're going to be bad, if, they're going to have to call somebody up, things like that. So you have to wonder if the matchup between Florida and Washington is going to be more similar in play style than what we expect. Because if both teams' goaltenders don't play well, it's going to be run and gun, and it's going to be whoever can outlast the other. And to me, I'd rather go against the Capitals in that way than the Pittsburgh Penguins, to be honest with you. So that's why I'm still going with wanting to play the Capitals.
Yeah, and here's the weird thing too. The Pittsburgh Penguins would owe a tiebreaker, not even because of the first tiebreaker neither. They would actually own it for the second tiebreaker if they were to win in regulation. If the Capitals were to win in regulation tomorrow, and the Pittsburgh and if the Pittsburgh Penguins get an overtime loss and they tie in points, because they would have the same amount of regulation wins, but it would actually favor them in regulation overtime wins. So it would take a second tiebreaker in order for the Pittsburgh Penguins to clinch that spot. So that I honestly, I think my attention will be more on those games than honestly Florida Montreal tomorrow, because you only worry about really the President's Trophy if you get to the final. Once again, something that I'll continue to go to my grave about when it comes to that. But yeah, second tiebreaker will be required. And
I have one more thing I wanted to add, if you don't mind.
Okay, go for it.
Tampa Bay still hasn't locked down the third spot. Boston is now 1 point behind them. Toronto might play Boston in the first round.
And Tampa Bay could play Carolina. Rematch of last year's Central Division.
I wonder how that would play out. I honestly would pick Toronto over Boston this year.
I agree. And I would pick Tampa over Toronto.
Oh, yeah, I would pick Tampa over Toronto for sure. And then as far as if it was Carolina-Boston, I'm going to have to give it to Boston on that one because we don't know how long Anderson's going to be out. I think he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, so he's out the first round. But if it's Tampa and Carolina, baby, 7-game series, bloody, everything you're going to want.
And the goaltending department just won the Jennings Trophy for Antti Raanta and Freddie Anderson, but they're both hurt. So that's a tough spot to be in if you're the Canes as well. So it's funny because a battle of Florida in their Eastern Conference final could very well happen. That is hold on. I need a screen share this for people on the YouTube. I need to. This is a must because I'm looking at it straight ahead. I don't have the tab open for our screen because I'm
Mhm.
just staring at these standings right now. I need to share it with the audience. Let's just take a look. Like I hope you can see my cursor, Nick. Um, but look at this, Boston, and let's look at the tiebreakers. Tiebreaker and regulation win would go in favor of Boston. So an overtime loss and a Boston win would make that
Yep.
happen.
Yep.
Oh, tomorrow could be chaos.
Oh,
Tomorrow could
definitely.
tomorrow could be absolute chaos, and we could have matchups that we never thought. We thought Tampa and Toronto were very close to being completely locked in, and it's not. By the way, there's 36 seconds left in Predators Avs. So so the Predators just went on a power play, but they did not score. So
Mm.
so still plenty of time for the Preds to make something happen based on the score and a chance for the um, Florida Panthers to possibly win the President's Trophy. But man, still in a great position regardless of what is going to happen for the Florida Panthers. I mean, and we didn't even get to talk about Spencer Knight too much in this
Nope.
show. Stopped all 27 of his shots. The defense was great in front of him, and just another impressive showing. We want Sergei Bobrovsky to do well,
Mhm.
but we know that if it comes to Spencer Knight having to be between the pipes, that we feel really good about it. I feel good that if Spencer Knight were to get a start or two, even come in relief, that the Florida Panthers will be fine. And sometimes we see a different type of motivation for the Panthers in front of him versus when Sergei Bobrovsky, and because we've seen that many times, and it's happened in their comebacks where they've gone from four back, and that's the strange thing about it all.
Yeah, it just shows the team's probably a little bit more comfortable in him, or that they feel like they have to tighten up, defensively, and then the offense can do what they do. And we just saw that, overtime in Colorado. So keeping everybody up to date on that. But I think that we want Bobrovsky to be the guy, and it's not only because he's making $10 million a year, but I genuinely like the guy. I think he works harder than any player or any goaltender in the league, whether that's a positive thing or a negative thing. I mean, he could be overworking himself, but I just think he genuinely is a good guy, and I think he deserves a lot of praise for the season that he's put together. I think he's put himself in a position to have a successful postseason. But, at the end of the day, I mean, it comes down to winning. And if he's not getting it done, then we do have a backup goaltender that can definitely step in and get the team where it needs to be. I actually didn't know that it was Spencer's second shutout of the season. I thought he had more than that, to be honest. And that goes to show either he's come in games, in relief and hasn't let anything in, or he's taken leads in, shutout leads into the third period late in the games, and somehow a puck squeaks through and everything. So, um, either way, I think we're good to go in goaltending for the playoffs. Let's just hope that Bob can secure that right off the bat, and maybe Spence gets a start because of an off game, and Bob can come back strong right after that.
Mhm. It's funny because you see how I'm kind of trying to pull up how Sergei Bobrovsky has done in April. I mean, we spoke about how he did in March, going 7-0-0 and getting
Hmm.
third star of the month. Um, it's funny because when you look at the numbers based on the month that Bobrovsky has, 893 save percentage, 3.27 goals against average. Those numbers, when I look at those, they don't actually do it justice, and I think they're a little bit skewed based
Hmm.
on how he was in the beginning of the month. And
Yeah,
where Sergei Bobrovsky was from the middle of the month to now, it's it if people were to look at the month as a whole, you kind of have to put a little bit of context in there.
correct. He was amazing in the Boston game. He was the best player by far. He definitely made sure that the team was within a goal for much of the game until, obviously the empty netters happened. But um, that's the Bob you need. That's the Bob you need to win. And if the team was out there actually trying to win the game, which clearly they were not, Barkov and most of the first line and everybody was taking a seat after that. Gudis and Lundell were taken out for precautionary reasons. So if we can get that, Bob, in the playoffs, I'm going to be doing this. So no problems with him at all. I think he's ready.
I think he is too, and I think he definitely is too. While we're here and we talk about your little trip to Boston,
Hmm.
got to talk about a little bit of the food you tried over there. If you had a chance to try any food, did you happen to try Wahlburgers by any chance?
I was not able to. I didn't pass by one, unfortunately. I ended up doing the whole historic tour with
The
the
Freedom
red
Trail.
line. Yeah, the Freedom Trail with the red line and the red brick all around the city. I was able to do that, all three parts of it. Visited Little Italy. I think I spent a little bit too much time in Little Italy.
No problem with
Um,
that.
no, it was quite interesting because I think the audio that I was listening to, the whole Italian part of the tour just talked about the restaurants and what they were known for. There was no like history of like, oh yeah, this is when the Italians came. No, no, no. You want to go to this restaurant for this bread. You want to go over here for gabagool, and if you want the best chicken parm, John Buccigross, you want to go here. So, I mean, that really kind of like after walking for like 4.5, 5 miles around the city and everything, kind of had to stop. Have a Peroni, have a bruschetta, and a nice chicken parm there too. So, and then obviously took in some food and beverages at the game.
Yeah, and TD Garden, that's a place to go to. Of course, an original six team as
Hmm.
well, historic, and of course, walking that bridge across the TD Garden. I forget the name of that bridge, but um, you walk across that bridge and you see the water definitely like right under you. Um,
Hmm.
you drop something in between that, you're screwed. Like I don't know if you had the chance to walk across that bridge. Um,
I, I honestly did not. I went around. I went. I was still on the trail and everything, so I was going across the river towards Charlestown and everything. They had like a little path that you can go by where they have the Boston Maritime Police Station there.
mhm. For people listening, the w- there is the site of the Boston Massacre as well. Fun fact
Hmm.
about the Boston Massacre is the sign that it is on is actually not where it happened. It actually happened right in the middle of the street. So they had to move the 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 sign when it comes to that in order for people not to go on the street for, of course, people getting hit by cars. So
Yeah.
that's another thing about that. And rambling on mostly because we're still finding out the score between Nashville and Colorado. So bear with us, whoever, for everyone listening live. But I remember going on a tour bus in Boston, and the tour guide said, "That is the Bobby Orr statue. He is the greatest hockey player of all time. And if you disagree, you can leave this charter."
You sound like you're from there.
I don't know. I tried doing my best Bostonian accent
That's pretty good.
from what when I went. Sam Adams is another great place to go for
Yep.
anyone who gets a chance to go to Boston. Did you get a chance to go?
Yes, it was on the path. So of course I took a detour. I pressed pause on my tour button and I said I'm going to go to Sam Adams and
And
try one
Doyle?
of those.
Did you go to
But
Doyle's?
no, I did not go to Doyle's,
Oh,
unfortunately.
that's the thing. That's the restaurant across the street from Sam Adams. The very popular restaurant
I
slash
must have
bar.
gone when it wasn't popular because there was nobody out. There was barely any cars out. It was just me and my Panthers jacket walking around waiting to get hazed and stuff, and didn't happen. Not once.
I mean, it's not a Rangers jersey that you're wearing there, so I mean, you were a lot safer than most people over there.
I probably would have gotten hazed if I was wearing a Bruins jersey. Apparently because what I saw at the game and everything seems like Bruins fans like attacking each other more than other teams' fans.
It's strange. We were talking about this pre-recording about Northeastern fans, about how they go about things versus Southeastern teams. A little bit of a score update for Colorado, Nashville, 159 left in overtime. Still nobody has scored. Colorado has controlled possession throughout most of the overtime. So I mean, man, the Nashville Predators, let's talk about them a little quick. Going back to like hockey topic, but David Rittich, backup goaltender for the Nashville Predators. It's funny because he actually was the goalie who started for Nashville when the Florida Panthers went on their 3-game home losing streak back in late February. We were thinking it was JF Berube, David Rittich, and Mikko Koskinen for the Edmonton Oilers. And what a different turnaround that the Florida Panthers had. And even before then, that was such a weird part of the season. And then just to go off of the 13-game winning streak as well. And then, of course, they have that dud in against Tampa Bay to kind of, you don't want to you don't want to have the last home game be a loss like that. But of course, there's context with that type of game, and the context is that when you looked at Alexander Barkov skating across when the Tampa Bay Lightning were chasing the puck shorthanded, and you saw the way Barkov skated, it's just saying they're just trying to preserve their energy for the playoffs. And it's a really hard, this whole week in general has just been really hard to evaluate this team. And if Panther fans are trying to evaluate this week, I say crumble up your papers and just throw it in the trash, because this is, I don't think this is an accurate representation, good or bad, of where this team is. Even this 4-0 win, you can't really evaluate too much of it.
Well, no. And, like we were talking about, loosey-goosey, just watching the game, not really putting a lot of, energy behind it, and they win. I mean, I honestly didn't expect them to win. It seemed like Ottawa was icing their whole team and everything. I mean, I know that their top goaltender wasn't in tonight, but, Forsberg, but, you would think that they would get a challenge, and it doesn't seem like they really did. So I just, it's just interesting to me that, teams can have these backup goaltenders, and Florida's one of them, that can just come in and they look like a Vezina Trophy winner. I don't get it. I really don't. Is it just because he's been rested and now he's coming out and he's just going to do whatever he can with the time that he has? Or, I really haven't played, and, whatever. I'm going to play how I want to play. Or maybe the team in front of them plays.
I'll give you an example. Sergei Bobrovsky's very first season with the Panthers. Chris Driedger. Like, Chris Driedger was great. Like in some of the starts that he had. I mean, but the splits were still like very different. I'm actually gonna look that up real quick. Chris Driedger 2019, because I remember just seeing how great Chris Driedger was every time he would suit up in those limited starts.
He would suck the puck in. Like, he would not allow any rebounds where Bob would just cough it up, or he would play the puck and it would be turned over right away.
NHL.com is taking a little bit of time to load. The shootout between Nashville and Colorado is about to begin. Quickly, talking about Chris Driedger. This was Chris Driedger in 12 starts with the Panthers. 205 goals against, 938 save percentage, 1 shutout in there. Of course, small sample size with Chris Driedger, but man, what a time whenever he was in the crease for the Panthers, and going, and you think about all how different that team was too. Oh my God, like Dale Talon's very, very last season. A third of the roster has been turned over. And
that was a play-in round year, wasn't it?
Yes, it was the COVID bubble in Toronto. And let's talk a little bit about an audio kind of related to the COVID round. So Andrew Imber, right now the Predators are leading the shootout 1-0, by the way.
Yes.
So Andrew Imber shared a video online of his video from 2016, his very first season being the PA announcer, about him yelling Panthers and then the crowd yelling goal. And before he could even finish, the crowd was saying goal. It was the Teddy Purcell goal within a minute of the game in game 1.
Mm-hmm.
And also during that COVID bubble, sorry, I was distracted by the shootout. During the COVID bubble, Andrew Imber would post videos of him at home doing the goal calls too.
Yes, I remember that.
And he was telling me on the very first time that he went on Locked On Panthers how that was the video that he used exactly. Oh, by the way, if the Predators make this one in the shootout, the Panthers win the President's Trophy. And Darcy Kemper makes the save. So it all comes down to David Rittich here.
Come on, Big Rich.
Come on. So right now we have it is Nazem Kadri going for the tie in the final round of the shootout, in the third and final round. So President's Trophy.
Let's go.
The Panthers have won the President's Trophy, ladies and gentlemen. The Nashville Predators win this in a shootout.
Wildcat Bros. Thank you.
Wow.
Let's go.
Wow. David Rittich
get that hardware.
Doesn't give up a single goal in the shootout. Nick, I'm glad we waited this out.
Oh, yeah.
I know we were kind of rambling on a little bit at the end, talking about vacation in Boston and all, talking about the food around there. But the Panthers did it. For the first time ever in franchise history, your Florida Panthers have won the President's Trophy. Number 1 seed overall in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained? The chips fell where they did. And just, there was no morning skate for the Panthers today. So there's not going to be a morning skate tomorrow. Neither.
Sit Reinhardt, sit Verhaeghe, sit Bennett, sit whoever you can. Call more people up, please.
Yes.
Give the boys some time off.
Yeah, so a little bit. So honestly,
we're not Vegas over here.
Yeah, so I they're showing kind of a shot of the crowd and in Colorado, and they look a little stunned watching this on my screen right now. And of course, Colorado fans are probably thinking the way we were if the Panthers didn't get it. They're gonna have to get through the Western Conference as well. So it only matters for them if the Panthers make it to the Stanley Cup final. But Nick, I think this is a great place to wrap it up. This almost hour-long edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. For people listening, we were talking to each other and saying, is this a good time to record? Is it not?
It's the best time to record.
And we waited it out, and here it is. President's Trophy, it belongs to the Florida Panthers. And let's put a little bit of a comment here for Frank Salazar, President's Trophy winner, baby. Let's go. Hope it's not bad luck. Frank,
not this year.
I hope not neither. So let's have a little fun with it. Florida Panther fans, enjoy tomorrow as well. Enjoy this weekend. Hopefully we'll have an announcement soon about game 1 and when it's going to be. And we'll be talking about it here on Monday's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. So everyone have a great, great weekend. And before we wrap up, Nick, tell everybody where they can find you online.
Hey guys, you can follow me on Twitter at Prudentia0 and then also on PantherParkway.com. Hope to see you guys next week, and hopefully we're celebrating a 2-0 series lead in the playoffs.
Absolutely. So hopefully by the time Nick comes back, we're yes, we will be talking about 2 games. Crazy how time flies just like that. So thank you, Nick, once again, and see you next Friday.
See you, sir. I'll see you later.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast so you'll be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On NHL and the Crosscheck NHL show with Andrew Berkshire and Mary Clark, who will be covering all the regular season activities around the National Hockey League. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And for your second listen of the day, make sure to listen to today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Hosts Stu Roden and Flip Livingstone help you become the expert of your fantasy team. Follow the Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast on the Odyssey app or wherever you get podcasts. So I'm Armando Velez with Nick Fairbanks, and you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.